Okay, let's get started. Yeah. So, good morning, afternoon, evening, everybody.
Morning.
Morning.
So, first thing I wanted to do today was to sort of make sure that we have a good connection between what you guys want to hear and learn about, and make sure that we present what we need. And as a logistical matter, if you have a microphone, it's probably best to mute it unless you're actually asking a question or making a comment. That cuts down the background noise. Thanks. So, Nick, what did you have in mind as far as what we wanted to cover? Is this primarily to introduce people to the Bug Squad process and then answer questions?
We could also maybe go over testing, show the documentation, and that's about it.
Okay. Okay. Does anybody have anything to add to that? I guess one thing is if anyone has any specific questions that they want to get answered, feel free either to ask them with your mic or to just type them into the chat, and we'll try to make sure and get them covered. So I think what I was thinking of starting with was just kind of an overview of the Bug Squad process, and then maybe we can do a little deeper dive into the testing process. And then, like I say, let's make sure this is interactive. So if people have questions or other things they want to cover, make sure to let us know. Okay? Does that sound good to everybody? Does that work for everybody?
Yep.
Excellent. Okay. So I created this fun little Prezi presentation. I don't know if everybody's familiar with Prezi or not, but it's an free online deal that I thought I would try. So this is the Bug Squad process here. All I have to do is memorize this chart, and you'll know everything there is to know. Basically, at a high level, it's a really simple process we do. We start off with open issues down here, and we want to end up with ready to commit issues up here. And then basically, once we have issues that are ready to commit, then the various committers just actually will commit those into the code base. But the Bug Squad itself is primarily concerned with moving issues from down here to up there. And the way that relates in terms of the tracker is, has everybody been in the tracker, in the Joomla code tracker? Just to look around? Okay. So this is the Joomla code tracker. If that's the URL there, or you can just go to Joomla code and then find the Joomla project, and then go tracker, and then it's the Joomla issue tracker here. So when we're talking about the various things over here, we're referring to the tracker here. So for example, the most important thing in the tracker that we focus on is this status field here. And there are way too many status codes, but most of these, there's a small subset that are really used that you need to be familiar with. And that's what we really focus on. So as we work on the issues, we change the status code, and then the status code is the primary way you can filter on a number of the fields up here in Joomla code, but status is the most important way to filter, as you'll see, so that's kind of the key marker of the issues in terms of knowing what to work on and what type of work each issue needs. Okay?
Right.
Okay, so quick overview of the process. what happens is, in the sort of the classic case, an issue is reported and a new issue is normally entered as open. Now, if somebody who is experienced in the bug squad enters a new issue, they might enter it in further up the process, and we'll talk about that. But the normal way for an issue to be entered is open. And open status means that basically nobody from the bug squad has evaluated the issue yet. So we don't know anything more about the issue than that somebody has said that it's a bug. Okay. So then so if people could mute their mics, that'd be helpful. So so we conceptually divide the bug squad into some teams, and these teams are not hard and fast. Lots of people do do things in more than one team, but it's easier to think about it in terms of what the skill set somebody has and where they would fit into the bug squad. So the first team we talked about is the tracker team, and these are the people who are kind of responsible for monitoring the open issues and deciding if they're real issues or not, if they're duplicates or if there's some other reason why they're not a real issue, and then where it makes sense, changing the status from open to confirmed. Okay, and so if there's a bug report that's open, you look at it, it's straight, yes, you can see the bug, and yes, you agree it's a bug, then it would, and it's not already in the tracker, then it would be changed to confirmed. If it isn't a bug, you might set it to one of these closed status, like maybe it's a known issue, or maybe it's a duplicate of something that's already in there, or maybe you're unable to confirm it. Or maybe you need more information, so you change it to information required, because you're not sure, you can't tell from the information in there. So you basically throw it back to the reporter to answer some questions. Okay. Now, as we're talking here, one thing I want to mention on the tracker, just as a logistical thing, is that in the tracker you can monitor the whole tracker, or you can monitor an individual issue. For almost everybody, you don't want to monitor the tracker. If you click this monitor tracker, you're going to get an email every time anything happens in the tracker, and you're just going to get flooded with emails. But if you work on an issue, it doesn't automatically assign you to monitoring that item, but it's a really good practice, I think, to monitor that item. So whenever you're going to work on an issue, I would recommend that you click this monitor item, and then you'll get an email anytime anybody does anything for that particular issue. And you can also unmonitor, stop monitoring the item anytime if you want as well. Okay?
Okay.
So back to this guy. So the tracker team, in a nutshell, his job is to move items from open to confirmed. Okay. So by the time an item's status is confirmed, then basically we know it's a real issue, and we should have in the tracker instructions on how to reproduce. Because we, obviously at that point, we're going to be typically turning this issue over to another person. So we need to make sure that each issue can be understood, on its own. Okay. So at this point in the process, the coding team would take over. So their job is to look at confirmed issues and to write code to fix them. Okay. So their job is to move things from a confirmed status to a pending status. Okay. So pending means that there's a proposed fix that for the issue. Okay. So if you're on the coding team, your primary focus would be to look at the confirmed issues and try to move them from there to pending. Okay. Now, obviously, at any point, it might happen that when somebody starts coding something, they have questions, or they don't understand, or they have a different opinion about the thing. So obviously, in some cases, instead of something being go from confirmed to pending, it might go back to information required or some other status. But in the sort of the normal situation, they'll find a confirmed issue, code a bug fix for it, attach that bug fix to the issue, either as a patch or diff file or as a link to a pull request on GitHub. Okay, so that's sort of the heart of the process. There is actually coding the bug fixes. Then, very important part of the process, the last real step for the bug squad, is the testing aspect. And that's where we take pending issues, because now remember, pending issues are ones where we have a proposed fix. So then we normally want 2 people to test those, and where that noise is coming from. Are other people hearing the background noise? Everybody's muted.
I'm muted, so it's not me for a change.
Yeah, no, I know it's. I mean, everybody's muted here. I don't understand. Anyway, so normally we want to have 2 independent tests of an issue before it's moved from, and obviously successful tests, before it's moved from pending to ready to commit. And again, in some cases, they'll just get tested and go, and then get changed. The status will get changed. In other cases, you know, there may be questions, or it may take a few go-arounds to get the proposed change right, and so on. But that's basically the overview of the process, getting things moved through the link from open to ready to commit, and the various teams doing the different steps. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yep.
Okay. So, Nick, what we wanted to sort of focus in on the testing aspect.
The area that most people get stuck on and would need help on.
Okay. Okay. So the biggest thing that, well, if we look at this process, most of the work in the bug squad is done outside the coding team, right? We have all these people that need to test. We have all these people that need to monitor the tracker. And so actually most of the people in the bug squad do not ever need to write a line of code, and do not need to be developers, okay? You don't need to be a developer to be a good tester, and you don't need to be a developer to be good at working in the tracker. However, to do testing, you do need to be familiar with familiar enough with Git that you can use the version control to get the proposed fixes, and to be able to flip back and forth. Obviously, when you're testing, you need to be able to do some testing with the vanilla program before the proposed fix, and then tested with the proposed fix so you can see what's different. So that involves using Git. Now, we don't have time today to go into detail about all the nuances of Git, but if you go into in the wiki, we have a pretty detailed article called Git for Testers and Trackers that's really oriented toward non-programmers to give you the information you need and the step-by-step instructions you need to work with patches or diffs or pull requests out of Git, because in order to, particularly for testing, you're going to need to be able to test the proposed code change. So without going into a huge amount of detail right now, how many people are totally unfamiliar with Git or version control? Is anybody is everybody at least a little bit familiar with it, or?
We're not familiar with Git. We use Material ourselves.
Okay. Okay. Well, if you use, I think it's fair to say that if you use another version control, then Git will be real easy to figure out. For example, you can, if you have software on your workstation that can apply diff or patch files, you don't have to install Git at all. You can do everything you would need as a tester to, with just using patch files. And but it's also very easy to install Git. You can either get there are basically three strategies for installing Git. You can get the command line version that works on any platform. If you run Eclipse or NetBeans or some other IDE, there will probably be a Git plugin for that. There is for Eclipse and for NetBeans, and I'm pretty sure for PHP Storm and the others, there are Git plugins for most of the IDEs. And then there are standalone Git clients. For example, there's Tortoise Git for Windows, and I think there's a similar program for Mac. I'm not sure. So here we've got instructions for the command line, for Eclipse, and for Tortoise. And obviously, if you have a different Git client, you should be able to adapt those instructions to whatever you're using. Also, the reason we put these things in the wiki is that anybody is free to edit and add to the wiki. So, if you're using a different client or you find some confusing thing or incorrect thing in the article, then feel free to edit it and improve it. So let me just walk through the basic process here of testing a patch or testing an issue. So the first thing we would do here is, as I mentioned before, we would set our filter to pending, and so now we're looking only at the pending issues. And you can also, if you're getting started, there's this, we've added a field in the tracker so that people can indicate if an issue is kind of an easy issue. So a lot of times when you're getting started, the best thing to do is to start by trying to find a real easy issue just to get the process squared away. So if we look at one of these, we've got a section, how to reproduce the problem, and this should be very clear. If it's not clear, then the issue shouldn't really be set to pending status. Because for an issue to be pending status, we should have clear instructions for how to reproduce the problem and test the proposed fix. Okay, so here we say open the color options at the template and add the default parameters to color options. So this isn't super clear, but I think we probably can see what he's talking about there. So in this case, there's what we call a pull request. And when you have a pull request, you'll see a URL like this, and then sometimes people will put the .diff after it, and we'll see how that works right now. If we click on the pull request itself, what we see is this display in GitHub, which is a great way to browse the code, but it's not necessarily useful for what we want to do right here. What is a lot more useful for us, if we want to actually apply the patch, is to add .diff to the end of that pull request, and now we get what's called a diff file. And this file isn't any fun to read, but it's very useful to with this file we can basically what they call apply the patch, which means to apply these changes. This diff is a series of changes. These lines with a minus are lines to be deleted, and the lines with a plus are lines to be added. And if we go in, let me just pull up Eclipse over here, which is what I use, but you can also do this stuff in the command line. Switch to my master branch. So if I copy this entire diff file into my clipboard, and then I go to Eclipse, Team, Apply Patch from Clipboard, and in Eclipse you got to do this extra step, which is kind of a pain. Now it's showing me which files are going to be changed with this patch. So if I want to review this, if I want to look at this file, I can see, okay, we're changing some lines in the language files for the template. In fact, this is all just language file changes. Okay? And then if I hit finish here, now if I run Joomla, I would have to install it here. But if I run Joomla with this, I'll be running with the proposed changes. And then if I want to run without the changes, I can do it a couple different ways. I can just do a reset, and that'll reset everything back to what it was without the changes. So then I can easily flip back and forth with either the before or after the change. Does that make sense to people?
Yeah.
So one of the, let me just see here if I can find this article. So we have this other article in the wiki. I haven't looked at this in a long time, but I think it's still applicable. That just has some things to keep in mind when you're testing. And for example, under testing pending issues, making sure that that the instructions are clear, making sure that everything's up to the latest master. Does everyone understand how one important thing to understand how the process works with the Joomla repository where the latest code is kept is that every time bug fixes are when bug fixes are committed to the code base, then what we call the master branch is updated. So we released Joomla 3.1.1 2 or 3 months ago, but the current master branch has 200 or more bug fixes that have been done since then. So we don't want to test anything against 311 at this point because, you know, there's a chance a lot of things have already been fixed. So we always want to make sure we're testing, excuse me, against the latest version of the master branch, and it changes almost every day. I mean, probably, you know, at least you know, several times a week, people are committing fixes to the master branch. So whenever you're sitting down to do a work on testing or working with open issues or whatever, the first thing you always want to do is make sure your master on your machine is up to date with the latest version from the repository. Now, one thing that's really important in testing is to make sure you test before you apply the patch and make sure you see the problem beforehand, and then test after you've applied the patch to make sure that the problem goes away. And a lot of times what I'll do is I'll actually do it a couple times just to make sure, because it's real easy to, especially if you're trying to go fast, it's really easy to think that you saw it one way or to get mixed up. But if you can see the problem get fixed, and then undo the patch and see the problem again, then you can be reasonably confident that you're actually got the result you expected. And there's some other good things to consider here. And this also includes the thing about clicking the monitor item, because if you've gone to the trouble of testing something, you probably want to keep it, you know, be alerted when something changes on that issue. Like you might have had an unsuccessful test because you found this problem, but then the person who coded it might then say, okay, well, now I fixed it, can you test it again? So if you click the monitor item, you'll get an email that tells you anytime that changes. Okay, and then of course when you're done testing, you want to make sure you remember to revert the changes so that you don't keep that. You know, normally you'd like to test things one issue at a time. So every time you're testing a second issue, you want to make sure you don't have the patch from the first issue still applied to your code. You want to make sure your code is back to exactly what matches master. Okay. Any questions about that? Okay, so I think, Nick, was there anything else in general you wanted to cover, or should we go into people's questions at this point?
That'd be great.
So either type the questions in the chat or unmute and ask away. Or if anybody, if any of our experienced folks that are here have comments they want to add, feel free as well. Okay, so
yeah. I have a short question about which tracker item should we pick? I mean, should we pick them with the highest priority, or tomorrow, or should we pick them just the ones we feel?
Okay, so how to pick issues?
Yeah,
and
tomorrow.
Basically, when you're starting, I would just focus on, I mean, any issue you fix is valuable. And so I would just pick issues that you think you understand well, or issues that are of particular interest to you, things that are part of the program that are important or that you've worked with in the past or whatever. Basically, I would focus on issues you think you can fix completely. And then as you get more experience, then you can do it. The other thing you can do is, if you're it's always fine to ask in the Skype chat If you say I've got a little bit of time for testing, a lot of times somebody will have some issues that they that they're really keen to get tested. So that's another way. That's another way to do it. But when you're getting started, I would just pick issues that you understand and think you can handle. Okay, so there was a question about with Eclipse, is it best to use master and then reset, or create new branches? And basically, it just depends. If you think you're going to be working on an issue for a period of time and you might need to come back to it later, then you can make a branch and then apply the patch and actually commit the patch to that branch. And that makes it real easy to flip back and forth between master or the branch. If you're just testing an issue and then you're done with that issue and you don't expect to be going back to it, then you don't need to make a branch. You can just apply the patch and then reset, or apply the patch in reverse to get back to master. Is that okay? And then how do I identify a first-person test issue? This is real important. I should have mentioned this. Let me just show this real quick. So if I had tested this issue here, I'd want to do a couple things. First thing I'd want to do is write a comment at tested and everything worked, or something like that. Or at test, did X but got Y, basically just explain what you did and whether it worked or not. And then the other thing you can do, and I always forget to do this, but we should do it, is you can, if it's a successful test, you can click this button up here to indicate that it's the first successful test. And this is really handy if you do this, because if you do that, then if somebody's really trying to find the low-hanging fruit, they can come up here and do a query. I think we have a query here. Don't we have a query for needs one test? So you can do a query here, and all of these issues are issues where they've had one successful test. So we just need a second test, and then we can change it to ready to commit. So again, another way to, if you're doing testing, another way to find issues to work on is using this query needs one test. But the key thing is you always want to drop in a comment. And the reason you want to put add test in there is for this. I'll show you here. Because you want to be able to, whoops. On our developer site, we have these really cool statistics. I don't know if anybody's seen these, but we have these charts that show who's really active in over different periods of time. And so if you see here test points, that comes from putting in the @test in the comments there. It's pulled out of the tracker. So you'll get your name in lights if you do lots of testing or coding or work in the tracker. Okay, so let's see what other. Okay, so we've got some other questions here. Huh? I don't know, Sergio. I haven't seen that issue with GitHub. Usually, those kind of things would be network-related issues, but I don't know specifically. Okay, there's a checkbox in the tracker item that show if it's been tested. Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Mike. Right. Okay, we did that. Okay, yeah, and for the yeah, when we do the PBF events, a lot of times we'll have a spreadsheet. So Nick has posted the link to the spreadsheet here for the different docs. And so, you know, for an event or something like that, we do that. But if you've just got some time and you want to come into the tracker, the simplest thing is just to come into the tracker and, depending on what you're trying to do, you know, use the queries or use the. There are a number of queries here. I don't know how many of these are useful for. You know, like I said, there's one here about needs one test or needs two tests, but you can also basically just use the status to filter. Okay, so anything else that I've missed or anything else that people want to hear more about? Well, Mike's asking about what if a test is not successful? Well, if a test is not successful, it depends. If a lot of times you'll have a question, like, so you might put in, I usually do something like test not successful, just so it's really clear, and then I usually say, you know, this is what I did. You know, 1, blah, 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 2, blah, 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 and you know, and I got da, 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 da. You know, and then I usually just put it as a question. Did I do something wrong, or is there something wrong with the proposed fix? And then if I've monitored the item, then I'll get the reply from whoever proposed the fix. Now, sometimes what will happen is the person who worked on this has gone off to do other things or whatever, and so then it'll basically be up to somebody else to come back in and fix it. And the tracker team ideally kind of monitors these older issues that nothing's happened for a while. And if they see that something's been tested unsuccessfully and nothing has happened on it for a while, it should probably be set to back to confirmed, just so another coder might be able to pick it up. Yeah, I think there's a question about Aptena, and I've never used Aptena, but my understanding is it's based on Eclipse. So I would be pretty sure that it has the same Git capability as Eclipse. So you should be able to do everything you need. Now, one annoying thing about Git, with Eclipse at least, and I think this is true with other IDEs, is that there are some things you still need to do from the command line. So that's why in the documents on the wiki we have everything. We have command line equivalents for everything as well, because they're like, at least with Eclipse, there are just a few things that you have to do with the command line. You can't do everything through the IDE, which is a little bit annoying. With SVN, you never had to use the IDE or the command line at all. But with the great thing about Git is that if you Google any Git question you have, you'll get a pretty clear answer. You know, there's a million. You know, like if you have a very specific thing you want to try to do with Git that you're having trouble with, it's very easy to find an answer to a specific question. Okay, so there's a question about applying patches from the command line. You shouldn't get errors when you apply the patch. If you get an error, it means that part of the patch might not have applied. So you probably want to check that. But you should be able to apply patches fine from the command line or from the IDE. Oh, that's a good point, Mike. Yeah, I just got in the habit of doing it from the URL, but Mike points out, or from copy paste. But Mike points out that in Eclipse, when you go to apply the patch, I should use that. I never even think about it. You can use a URL, so I could just put in the diff file direct. Oh, that's the diff file direct URL right there instead of doing copy paste. Good. That's a very good point. I should try that. Yeah, I would think Skype. Are you going to set up a Skype chat for the PBF? I think that's what we've done in the past, isn't it? So that everybody that's working can talk to each other. Yeah, so we probably should just set up a Skype chat. Okay. What other questions do people have?
Yeah, perhaps tomorrow, when the few words about how it's going on, when it starts, and yeah, how even.
Yeah, Nick, do you want to answer that? So when do we get started?
Yeah, I'd be glad to. So basically, it starts whenever. You could even get started now if you wanted to. It's in every time zone around the world. So, for example, people in India are going to be starting about 12 hours sooner than people in the United States. It's going to be pretty fast-paced in the Skype chat. Whenever people have questions or they need help with something, they'll post in the Skype chat. They'll also post tracker items that they want others to test. One of the biggest bottlenecks in the bug fixing process is testing. And so if you have a bug that you really want fixed for your company or for your client, then you would test it, you would code it, whatever you need to do, and then you would ask other people to help test it as well. And you can trade for one test for one test. So, for example, if Mark has one that he really wants me to test, I might say to him, "Hi, Mark, I'll be glad to test it. Can you test this one for me, please?" And so then you trade tests and do it that way. So as far as PBF, everything starts basically right about now. You're more than welcome to work ahead because within 12 hours, well, in some time zones, it's already Friday. So some people might be getting started now in East Asia. And then we'll have more and more people joining as the day goes on.
Okay.
On Skype, in the PBF Skype chat? Anyone
Yeah,
that's not? Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, so Mike was asking, this is specifically targeted to the CMS, the bug squash.
It's for everything. So if you wanted to test the platform, which is basically the new framework that we have now, and it's not live yet. We're in basically alpha testing at the moment. You're more than welcome to. It's basically anything that you want to work on Joomla, primarily the code, but you can work on documentation and other things that can help Joomla along the way or help you help Joomla.
So just to clarify, the bug squad process that we've talked about is specific to the CMS. That process, the tracker. So only CMS related issues are going to be in the Joomla issue tracker. But yeah, if you want to work on other stuff, that's great. But in terms of the whole process of all the tracker and the statuses and all that stuff. That's all specific to the CMS.
Yep, and for the framework, you just have to go to GitHub, go to GitHub/Joomla, and there you can select the Joomla framework and you can post issues using GitHub's issue tracker. They have it a little bit more simple because it's more of a simple process. They have less people, it's easier to work on. Whereas we have a more mature product and we have more people involved, so we need more of a process there.
I'm probably focusing tomorrow more on issues for 3.1 than 2.5, or it doesn't matter.
Whichever one you would like to work on, you're more than welcome to. I always like to work on issues that either my friends are working on so I can help them out, or issues that my company or clients are going through. So if you have mostly Joomla 2.5 clients and you know that they're faced with bugs and work on Joomla 2.5 mostly, if you're moving people to Joomla 3 and there's an issue with the upgrade process or something similar, then you can get that fixed in the Joomla 4. And then that'll help you out in a week or 2 weeks when you do need to use it for clients. So whichever one you'd prefer, Joomla 3 or Joomla 2.5, you're more than welcome to work on either, or both.
Okay, let's see, if we are testing, find out someone tested. Yeah, I mean, if the question is, what if we know somebody has done something in the tracker, but they didn't document it? And what I would normally do in that is try to ask them to document it, because the thing about the tracker is that if you didn't document it, it's like you really didn't do it. You know, because you know, we want to be able to. We might have to go back to that issue 3 months or from now or 6 months from now, and see what happens. So we really want the tracker to represent, you know, a complete audit trail of what happened, you know, with respect to that issue. So the best thing is to get the person whoever did something to go back in and document what they did. Okay, well, thank you, everybody. It seems like that's we can wrap it up, and we're excited about this event, and hopefully we get a lot of people to pitch in and help.
Thanks so much for presenting, Mark. Really appreciate it.
Okay, and if anybody has any questions or wants to join the Bug Squad outside of this event, all you need to do is email me. Let me give you my. And anybody that wants can join the Bug Squad. And just to emphasize, you don't have to be a coder. It's, you know, most of the work in the Bug Squad is actually done by non-coders, either, you know, helping with the tracker or helping with testing. Oh, whoops, I meant to do that all. Okay, thanks a lot, everybody. We'll see you around. We'll see you on the Bug Squad trail.
Thank you. Bye.